Now at 4, the Delphi murders trial, day 7 of testimony focusing on guns and bullets.
The science on the stand and the debate on the testing accuracy.
And we just hit 75 degrees, but we've got quite a roller coaster ride. A cool weekend, temperatures back down into the 30s, and I've got 80s in the 7-day.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious.
If Kamala gets 4 more years, she will obliterate our economy.
And election day stress, from the ads to the issues.
We've got the ways you can cope and manage the stress ahead of the polls. Plus, game day.
The excitement surrounding IU and the big names for their matchup against Washington. And Indy's ready for it.
The preparations underway for Taylor Swift fans coming to town. Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News.
We begin today at 4 with new developments in the Delphi murders trial. Good afternoon, I'm Felicia Lawrence.
And I'm Scott Swan in on this Friday for Dustin Grove. Today in Delphi, a ballistics expert took the witness stand to talk about the bullet that was found at the scene and how that bullet connects to Richard Allen. Richard Allen, as you know, is charged with the murder of Abby Williams and Libby German. Their bodies were discovered in February of 2017 near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi.
Our Bob Siegel is in Delphi at the Carroll County Courthouse with more on day 7 of the trial.
The testimony today has been all about guns and ammunition as the prosecutor attempts to place Richard Allen directly at the crime scene. All morning, jurors heard from a firearm examiner who used to work with Indiana State Police. She examined the bullet cartridge that investigators recovered at the crime scene between the bodies of Abby and Libby. And then 5.5 years later, she examined a gun that police seized from Richard Allen's home. Firearm examiner Melissa Oberg explained how she test fired a bullet through that gun. And then she showed pictures of that fire test bullet side by side with pictures of the bullet cartridge recovered at the crime scene. Under a high-powered microscope, the two images showed markings that appear to match very closely, and the jury got to see that. Oberg told the jurors, based on her testing and examination of the evidence, she concluded the cartridge found between the girls' bodies did cycle through the gun that belonged to Richard Allen. It was dense testimony. Both some jurors and folks in the courtroom seemed confused, at times bored. Deputy Prosecutor Jim Luttrell did not do a particularly good job of really walking the jurors through the whole process so they could understand. That may change more this afternoon. And this afternoon, the defense is going to be pushing back on the testimony that was given this morning. Keep in mind, the bullet cartridge found at the crime scene was not fired. The test bullet in the lab, it was fired. And those are the images that the state is using side by side to try to link Allen to the crime scene. In Delphi, Bob Siegel, 13 News.
All right, Bob, thanks so much. So how does today's testimony impact the jury? At 4:30 this afternoon, we'll ask our legal expert and local attorney, Katie Jackson-Lindsay. And Bob will have more from the trial in Delphi tonight at 5. We're going to take a deeper look tonight at the testimony during our Delphi debrief. That's on WTHR+. You can watch that at 10 o'clock every weeknight during the trial. It's free download on Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku.
All right, Scott, thank you so much. Let's take a breath with weather because it has been just amazingly gorgeous days over the last, what feels like 2-3 weeks or so.
Angela was over in the Weather Center, and right before the 4 o'clock came on, she goes, "We just hit 75." So, I mean, it's incredibly warm out there.
That's a reason to celebrate
It is a reason to celebrate. We're going to go on a little bit of a ride, a roller coaster ride we teased earlier. So we're going to cool way down. I
don't like roller coasters.
I know. Well, just hands and arms inside the car at all times.
Okay.
We'll be okay.
Hold my hand. Hold my hand.
We'll be fine. We'll get through it. Look, we're going to see the temperatures drop. We've got a front moving through actually right now. It's going to see those temperatures go from 75, which is where we are currently, our high temperature so far for the day, and we'll likely end up around 40, but I think over the course of the weekend, some of those nights, especially Sunday night and into early Monday, we could see the temperatures get close to freezing. So a little frost early Monday could be possible. This is the front that's moving through. Now, it had the rain with it earlier in the day. That's the rumbles of thunder you may have have heard if you were sleeping maybe around 6 to 7:30. Some of you are early risers. I know that. I was not. I was sleeping until the thunder came through, but it didn't produce a lot of rain. The rainfall totals were 2 to 5/100ths of an inch. So this is not a drought buster. This is not something that's really going to help. And I still think even with this rain that we saw today, it's still going to be the driest October on record so far. We've got another chance of rain in the forecast, though. That, unfortunately, may arrive closer to Halloween. In the short term, the front is moving through. It's dropping the temperatures. I expect the temperatures to drop into the 60s. Notice this northwest wind that's going to kick in. That north wind will help to cool us off, and we'll end up to around 40 for tonight. I'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the weekend forecast coming up.
All right, we're looking forward to that, Rob. Thank you so much. And here's a traffic incident you need to know about. This is happening at New York and I-65, just the east side of downtown. And there are 3 semis involved in a crash, and it is blocking traffic. So we know at least one lane is back open. So we've got traffic inching through on that one lane on that side. But we are going to try to find out a little bit more about what happened, if there are any injuries. Look, you can see more of the backup there. So clearly it's headed southbound on I-65. And hitting, it starts at New York, but this backup going all the way into the North Split. All right, so let us continue to track this and keep you updated in traffic.
Today, the city of Muncie announced that cuts are being made to city employee pay, and funding for 3 positions are being eliminated. So in a release, the city council made the cuts during a city budget meeting this week. It's going to be cutting more than $437,000 from salaries across 14 departments, including police, EMS, and the fire department. The council also voted to eliminate funding for the deputy mayor, the deputy controller, and the communications director. This was a complete surprise to the mayor. In a release, the mayor says the administration was not communicated with at all about these job cuts. The city council has every right to reduce funding.
And now to politics. Today, 13 former Trump White House officials say they are backing former Trump Chief of Staff John Kelly. He recently made remarks to the New York Times calling the former president a fascist.
The group signed an open letter released today by the Harris campaign. And we are now just 11 days away from Election Day.
And both candidates are honing their closing arguments to voters on divisive issues. Vice President Harris making the case that Texas is ground zero of extreme abortion bans. And former President Trump using the state to draw attention to challenges at the southern border. Both of these campaigns are sticking to their plans, hoping to energize voters before they head to the polls. Well, some of you may be feeling stressed as we lead up to Election Day. Campaign mailers, texts, and ads can really feel a little bit like it's a bombarding thing, right? I mean, it's everywhere.
Right.
The weight can take a toll, so how do you cope and manage all the stress? Brian Abel explains how you can get through it.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious.
If Kamala gets 4 more years, she will obliterate our economy.
With messages like those feeding the notion that the 2024 presidential election is the most consequential in American history, it can be easy to feel stressed.
And being exposed to so many news that are not always positive or happy or encouraging leads to more sense of distress.
There are ways to manage the anxiety. Mental health experts suggest limiting time exposed to stressful content, like doom scrolling on social media, and do things that are good for your mind, body, and spirit.
Self-care routines that we all have or should have that include physical activation, engaging in activities that are pleasurable, making sure that discussions that we have with friends or family members are not necessarily around the topics that are currently stressful.
And if you find yourself frustrated by a friend, family member, or coworker with different political views, UCLA's Dr. Emmanuel Maidenberg says it's important to remember people are more than just their political beliefs.
Recognizing that opinions, including political opinions, are based in our personal life experiences. Thinking about it that way allows for some compassion to understand that the other person may have different view, a different interpretation of some of the things that happen.
In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
So to learn more about the upcoming election, including a look at this year's ballot, head over to WTHR.com/elections. But as that expert just said, maybe you want to take a break and talk about something else like sports.
Yeah, and boy, it's going to be a huge weekend of football. ESPN's College Game Day setting up on the IU Bloomington campus today.
So the Hoosiers are hosting the Huskies in a sold-out noon game at The Rock. IU is undefeated and heading into the matchup without their starting quarterback, who is recovering from thumb surgery earlier this week.
I mean, you think about a sold-out game and this big matchup. This is high-value exposure for IU.
College football is the biggest draw of audience in the country, more than the NFL. And so when Indiana is moving up the rankings, we're getting visibility that we could not buy. And so the benefit of a winning football team in Bloomington cannot be understated, both in terms of immediate impact and long-term impact in our ability to compete for students and for gifts.
All right, so if you're going to the game, you need to know this. IU is opening the stadium parking lot at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The game day show starts at 9 on the south side of Memorial Stadium. We'll bring you live coverage on Saturday sunrise and, of course, on all of our WTHR platforms.
So we have that, plus we're going to have much more on IU football's business of winning coming on 13 News at 5.
So we got the IU game, and now it's time for Operation Football.
The big winner of this year's Spirit Award. Hey, Rob.
And temperatures certainly going to feel a little bit closer to where they should this time of year for the weekend, but wait until you see the warm-up next week. I'll show you 80s coming up.
Plus, more in the Delphi murders trial.
Today, we want you to hear from our legal expert about the testimony from Day 7 and the influence it could have on the jury. That's ahead at 4:30.